Now, before we went under the arm, I will go over and just go a little bit further in. Your knee. So same opening, but now the hand comes up top. Here. So this is the movement we're doing. Here. Draw back as if Kokyudosa. And then don't just push it down. Cut on the ankle. Drop. Either together or one knee at a time. Drop. Okay. Hey! Well, here we do a lot of usually. And the opening is what I want to focus on. And the opening is this movement. Here. And in fact, if I start with a wider knee, I'm going to bring it together. And so I'm going to contract everything. I'm bringing everything together. Here. That way I'm contracting and then I can expand into whatever I want. Alright, I can take this out. I can finish something else. But the important piece is the opening here. Alright, so I'm in control. Here. And you can do it with both arms. So I can parry this arm, or I can parry this arm, which is what we're doing here. Alright, so further in. Finish Nikki. So the technique is less important to me than this opening where I'm contracting and expanding. Here. And then expand into whatever technique you want. All right? Okay, Kokyudosa. So there's a whole bunch of ways to do this one. I think the one you like the most, we're just kind of cooling down a little bit. I was doing it one way for years, and I got shown another way to do it. And then Peter Sensei yelled at me for doing it another way. So there's like a whole bunch, right? My favorite one now is actually the one that Peter Sensei does, which is I actually load him up by extending through my elbows. So he's actually up here. He should be. And then I turn to one side, as opposed to pushing out from the beginning, as opposed to doing this, right? It's kind of the one we're used to doing. We actually bring it in, but through the elbows. So don't just pull them on top of you. Drive through your elbows. And through. Okay? Super back stretch. So let's keep working on this opening, and let's try to, now we're going to bring the arms up. But the tendency when we bring the arms up generally is to do this. So let's keep the hips down as we bring the arms over. Okay. Okay. Great. Nice stretch. I like to say that 99.9% of everything I do is single sensei. I mean, there's just no way around it, you know? Like, we all owe them so much, you know? The other 0.1% is, you know, the things that I try that generally don't work. So there's something to it. And a lot of what we do are what Seo Sensei used to call bridge technique. Crossing what we do with both hands with what we do empty-handed, right, as a teaching tool. So one way to look at this opening is almost like a way to draw. So I cover here as I reach, and then from here, it just depends on how I want to draw in order to cut, right? And I picked this one just so I want to hit it. If you remember, there were days the Sensei said, make sure you have your wakizashi. So you get really angry. People forgot them. Say, I live here, I don't know. How do I have one? All right, so think of it this way. One, right? And now we're doing the reach for the Kokyuho this way, right? But you could come underneath, right? You could come underneath here to cut. All this stuff exists, but it starts from that position of cover and reach to draw. Let's start with the elbows. Okay, so let's go into ukemi, which means this leg needs to go back there. Like that. So I need to really make sure I'm on balance. Alright, as I step through. But that's the entry I want, is here, here. That entry. As opposed to here. Okay? To just get it out of your way. Whichever one works. Just so that you can create the distance you need, or just get the leg out of your way. The leg that he's taking out. Yeah? When it becomes very fast, there's no choice but to take Ushiro Mayoko Kaiten, which is the backwards break fall. But you don't have to do that. Right? That's all that is. That's all this arm is for. And then from here, I can go on top, underneath, whatever I need. But as I do that, I'm going to move behind him. See how I drop the shoulder here? Then I move through. Alright? That's the feeling I create. But don't rush to the technique, because if I rush to the technique here, I really have to bank on my speed to avoid this punch. I have to, and assume that he's not going to track me, right? Which is just bad martial arts. Always assume that they're going to track you. And always try to practice that way. It doesn't have to be hard or strong. He doesn't have to be trying to hurt me. He could go even slower than that. And still, if I move, he should be tracking. But it doesn't hurt. That way, when I'm moving, also I feel more tension built here because he tracked, because he tried to follow. And it actually makes the Aikido better and feel better. You know, if you don't notice that, the more pressure and tension is built in a technique to a point, the better the Aikido tends to feel. When it's very light and there's nothing there, it doesn't feel like anything. It feels like we're just dancing. You know, and there's nothing like, if I do Shionage from here, this is not satisfying. This feels like he's just kind of giving it to me. But if we go here, and I really earned it, as you put pressure, it feels real. You know, it feels like there's something there. Okay. Usually no give on ukemi, it's really that. It's always pressure into your nage. The worst thing you can do taking ukemi, especially at higher speeds, is break connection and have any distance between you and your nage. Because, if you think about it, this is where all that power is going to hit you the hardest. Bang. It's going to feel like the end of the baseball. Here is where it's limited, and it's just body weight. So if he throws me from here, I can take that fall pretty much however I want, but it's because I'm connected through it. Now, as I do that, again, if I break that connection and try to take this fall, it's way heavier. It feels like garbage. So it's much better, just hip into it, relax, hip into it. Imagine you're doing just a crunch with your stomach, so just engage your core, and then he just throws it, and I just leave this arm connected, right? And then your goal is to just, here, hakama. So, no, I'm not there yet, but we'll get there. Boom. Now what we're going to do is we're going to roll that. Same opening. This hand comes on top now. We just did this one. Now this one. Reach over, roll it back. Okay? Roll it. Play with that. Shaper Sensei special. Okay, unless I want to do the Inage or Shionage, like I'm kind of locked here, right? Unless maybe there's like one or two other options. But this becomes very limiting. Instead, start here, cover. In case he spins around and tries to hit me with that hand, I want to have his hand up. then transition. Don't do what I just did with that Shihonage. Here. So don't do this. So keep it in front. And throw that, okay? But there's a delicate balance that you want to strike when you're taking ukemi when you're training between helping your nage and just being a jerk. Right? Because we've all had that experience, right? We've all had that experience working with somebody, and so I'll attack. You had that experience where they do this, right? There you go. Oh, I must have done something wrong. No, you just knew it was coming, so you knew where to lock down, right? No, but what's helpful is, for example, if he lets the arms go behind him on the Shihonage when he does it, right? So go for Shihonage, but the arms go behind your head. So here, right, and he goes to throw. I'm not trying to reverse him here, so I just break away. Because there's no control. And it's actually dangerous if you're an uke to take ukemi for bad technique. Because your body's not going to take the right ukemi and it's easier to get injured. So it's that fine line you want to tread between not being a jerk, but at the same time, for me, 90% of ukemi is keeping myself healthy and safe. The other 10% is reversing. Right? Is kaishiwaza. But otherwise, it's all about staying safe. So if I'm taking ukemi, and I don't feel safe at any point, like right here, if I don't feel safe, I'm just going to say, let's start again. No problem. No big deal. Don't worry about it. Not every technique has to be perfect, right? But I have to not get injured. So if I feel unsafe at any point, because the technique doesn't feel right, I'm going to break it. That's my job as an uke. Nage's job is not generally to make sure that you're safe in every part of the technique unless you're a beginner. They can't, because they need to focus on doing the technique, right? So if he's doing the technique, his job is not to focus on my safety, other than make sure he doesn't throw me in the zone. So now he throws. That was my job, to stay safe. His job is to throw. But if at any point I feel unsafe, I don't lock down on him. That's the jerk thing to do. I simply, as he goes to do it, I just break away. I just break off. And re-engage. Don't break off and just kind of walk away. You break off and go, okay, let's try that again. Sorry, just didn't feel good. Right? Because then you get to play another day. But when you have that mentality of like, no, he'll figure it out. He'll figure it out at the expense of your shoulder or your knee, you know? You don't want. So when you're doing this, just make sure here, giving an example on Shihonage. When I go to do the Shihonage, my job is to keep this hand in front of me. If his flexibility won't allow this hand to stay in front of me, like let's say he's super tight in the shoulder, I don't give up on it. I work around it. I work around his flexibility. But I don't give up on the technique. Like I don't feel like he's too tight. And so what I do is I just give it to him so that we can finish. That's bad. It's bad technique on my part. And it's not my job to keep his shoulder safe. It's his job to keep his shoulder safe. My job is to do the technique correctly. So if I'm going here, and I feel tension here, like his shoulder's not giving in, one option is to just sneak out as I do it so I can keep my eye on it without overturning his shoulder. Right? But that's not about keeping him safe. It's about doing the technique with his shoulder being stiff. So it's a fine line. Right? You don't want to be a jerk, but at the same time as an uke, you want to stay safe. And then as a nage, you want to do a throw correctly. Don't compromise your technique because your uke's flexibility doesn't allow for it. Work around that. You know? If that makes sense. So I'm going to take it down from the strike back to the Yakuhami Katatetori. Now, this is a personal choice. So if you like this, fine. If you don't, or your teacher tells you not to do it, then don't. Okay. Whether it's Morotatori or Katatetori, I don't like offering my wrist down. I don't like doing this. Because as much as he would grab here, because we're doing Aikido, on some level, I feel like he's going to do this instead. Because my arm is down. Why would he not just hit me in the face? So I always offer up, and then I draw back to this position. Okay? So exaggerated, like that. And now we're going to do the same motion from Katatetori, getting here. Okay? And then from here we're going to go to Iriminage, but you see the elbow. Bang. Back. Finish everything on. Again, turning here. Don't turn this way, right? Different. This way. Just like we've been doing. So up here, down, turn, behind, turn. As I enter down with this elbow, it now goes in cover.
Oh, nice.
So now we're going to practice covering not just on the Nage side, right, as we enter we cover, but now as uke, as soon as this releases, he's got to know my hand's close, so he covers too. So I move into Ikkyo. Doesn't matter where he grabs. There's my elbow, my wrist, forearm, doesn't matter. But now we want to start engaging ourselves as ukes, covering, yeah? Okay? Yeah, see, I had a point now.
The snap.
Everybody talk most much. All right, so as we move, one thing I wanted to stress is this movement is supposed to be a snap movement. It's not a kind of ginger. So, all right. The other thing that I wanted to stress was on the hand, on the blocking hand here. If when she blocks, she's already off balance, I can enter and do my Ikkyo that way. If she's not off balance, in other words, she's early enough that now she has her balance, and we're just kind of kikiwaken, like we're just kind of balanced here, balanced engagement. The last thing I want to do is fight here. In fact, one thing Sohiro Sensei really focuses on with his, if you notice his Ikkyo ura, from like Shomanuchi, for example, you've ever seen this? Right? This is the way I learned Ikkyo ura. Right? That's the way I learned Ikkyo ura. Do you know how Sohiro Sensei does it? Ever seen that? Right? Why? Because the power is all coming this way. Why would you fight that to try to reorient, right? So it's the same here. When we get here, if she's on balance, it doesn't make sense for me to fight that, right? Even though I'm bigger and I probably could, there's no need. She's built all this pressure here. She's strong. I'm just going to work with it. Now, if I'm early enough and I take her balance, that's another story, right? But if she's strong in her position here, I'm going to have to take that Ushiro movement, right? Here. Here. Oh, all right, cut. Here, slip in between. Cut. Slip in between. And that's not enough to cut from here. I need to get behind it. I need to get here. Shirakawa Sensei, if you follow him on social media, very cool thing he does. He actually does this as a hip connection movement from here to demonstrate how it becomes a single structure. Okay? From here, so from here, if I give him space, right, he just turns this way and he has his balance back. So what's the point, right? So the idea is to make it not accommodating, make him have to work. And to do that, I'm going to enter close, as though I'm going to hip check him or hip throw him right here. Right here. That close. All right? So we're getting comfortable where we're decidedly uncomfortable. So here, This is incredibly uncomfortable, but I have way more options of control for that throw. When I do it a little bit more at speed, it speeds up to that. But try to avoid that. Because there's nothing happening there. It's just the nails. Okay? Go ahead. Another minute.